Hey everyone, welcome to the Mobile User Acquisition Show. In the Mobile User Acquisition Show, we talk about how to use mobile user acquisition strategies to grow your app quickly and capital efficiently. The Mobile User Acquisition Show is presented by me, Shamant Rao, mobile growth leader and founder and CEO of the mobile growth consulting firm Rocketship HQ. Each episode includes strategies, tips, and pointers from the leading edge of mobile user acquisition that you can use to unlock tremendous growth for your app in a sustainable and capital efficient manner.
Our guest today is Kentaro Sugiura, the founder at Evelong Games and former head of user acquisition for APAC at BoomBit.
I'm excited to welcome Kentaro Sugiura to the Mobile User Acquisition Show. Kentaro, welcome to the show.
Samas, thank you for having me, and I'm very happy to talk about my project and share my experience here.
Yeah, I'm especially excited to have you, Kentaro, because I think when we first connected about the podcast, we were like, oh, Kentaro, maybe you can talk about Google UAC or APAC and stuff. And then I realized you've done something that not very many people have done, which is transition from being a game marketer to a game developer. Very quickly, I realized you have a lot of very interesting perspectives and experiences to share about your transition, your project, and all the progress you have made. Excited to dive into all of that. And to set the lay of the land, can you tell us what you do now?
Yep. I'm working for game publisher, which is mainly focusing on console game, but I'm also having my own mobile game studio, which focus on classic games such as Sudoku, Solitaire, Checkers, Domino, these kind of classic games. And I previously worked for Polish social casino developer, Huge Games, as a senior media buyer. Then I used to work for another Polish game developer called BoomBit as a head of marketing APAC. So as Shamans mentioned, I have 100% marketing background. But I decided to start my own game studio. And because I have some hypotheses that classic games such as Sudoku or Solitaire, Checkers, there's not much difference between, let's say, my game and some game from the big developer in terms of the gameplay or graphic. So my hypothesis is for this kind of classic game, most important thing is how to do the marketing, how to run the marketing.
Sure.
So
yeah, and for most people who think about starting their own game development studio, they probably think, and I include myself in this group, right? They probably think, oh, we need to have 200 levels in this game. We need to have a big team of game designers, artists, and PMs. And obviously, the games you have built are not as complex as that. So how do you think about the competitiveness of your games versus other game studios, which are much better funded, but also have more depth and complexity?
Yeah, so as I said, the classic game doesn't have any difference between, let's say, indie developer and the big developers, because the game, it's too simple. Just imagine Solitaire on Windows 95 and Solitaire on, I don't know, latest Windows. There's not much difference, right, in terms of gameplay. So so this is a good for me, like me, because I don't have much resource, as you mentioned, like I'm not founded as well. So I have to find such a niche, which has I don't have disadvantage, but I can use my skill, utilize my skill. So this is one thing. Another thing that's usually these classic games has very good like retention in a longer period. So I know that, from my previous experience, I know Sudoku can have lifetime, like 1 year or 2 years. Some of solitaire game has over 3 years. So this gives me, more, let's say, availability to optimize the game product, also, marketing side as well. And I can give you some example. So my first Sudoku product, I spent $500.
Yeah.
And I tested out, just, the Google USC install volume campaign, no optimization, just install volume, pure install volume. And I already got day one retention 25%. And if we take a benchmark, let's say from the liftoff report, the puzzle category median day one retention is 29%.
Wow.
And I don't know how much they spend like for the production, but like it gives me enough reason to to continue the project because I see that potential here.
Yeah. So you were like, let's put a game out there, let's see what comes back. And you're like, this is very strong. These are very strong metrics, even with a simple classic game. So let's continue to pursue it. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And, for building your first Sudoku game, and afterward, what sort of technology resourcing did you need? What sort of teams did you have to build? And how did you hire these developers? What was that process like?
Yeah. So for Sudoku project, I was looking for my developer on freelance.com. So I don't know if you know about this site. So basically, you can post some project and, some people, post, making some offer for you.
Okay.
And just, I post, with a description that what kind of game I want to make. So for me, it's like Sudoku. So I don't need to explain so much. And I also put some of the, reference. So I asked the developer to play these games and tell me that, it's possible to do that. Some of function, they cannot do that with the budget. And, they all tell me. And also I put some sentence about the SDKs because I would like to put the Firebase, AdMob as ad mediation, and a Facebook audience network for the ad mediation. So, I prefer to have, to work with someone who has experience with implementing these SDKs.
Yeah. And as you said, you have been a marketer. You do not have a technical background. So what was the process of making the specs for what the developer needed to execute on a day-to-day, week-to-week time frame? Was there a way you spec'd it out? What was that communication like?
I try to make, so as you said, I don't have any technological background. I don't know how to code. I don't know how to make a application or, game for mobile. So I have zero. So let's say in terms of let's say Sudoku, okay, I want to implement, let's say the leaderboard, and I will ask the developer, like, is it possible to do that? And, he will tell me that, what kind of difficulty we could see and, what kind of problem we could have. So then I break it down. Okay, so if we have this kind of problem, how about this? How about this way? And we try to make some, points that, which we all happy that, he can do that, let's say with the budgets. And I also, happy with the, result.
Yeah.
So how it looks like. Yeah. So this is like a game production. And when it comes to the SDK implementation and integration, this is sometimes, it's more complex. But this kind of stuff, we are not first person to implement or integrate some of the SDK with the Sudoku. So we have some access to some game community. So I'm located in Poland. We have a big like game community, and I asked some people to how to do that, and this experienced programmer work as a mentor for us in terms of some technical stuff. So make sure that everything's okay. So this is how I work with developers.
Yeah, and speaking of working with developers and accessing technical know-how, there are websites like sellmyapp.com, which offer source codes to games and they can be customized. So would you recommend using sites like that or building from scratch? Why?
If you want to make a classic game, typically, I think that it doesn't matter like you make from scratch or you buy the app itself from sellmyapp.com or somewhere, because the game it's very simple to make develop. You buy like Unity assets, $50, and if you are somewhere you know how to do the code, probably you can make some prototype 1 or 2 hours. But when it comes to the design, you have to think. So I don't think that if you buy some game on sellmyapp.com and just publish it, you can get enough attention from a user because of the design. So you need to customize design, and if you customize design, probably you pay more than it's a single much cheaper and faster to make it from scratch. It's my opinion.
Right. So you're saying, look, the UI, the UX just needs to look nicer. It does need to look better, and that can take a lot of work if you buy something off the shelf. Cool.
And I think I should put some things here. So when it comes to the classic game, so as I said, there's no difference in the gameplay. So this is what we have to think about more about the UI and how people can play this classic game smoothly, very well. So without stress, no bugs, the number is big enough to see that, or this kind of very small details. So you have to think about this kind of stuff.
Yeah. And how do you think about your monetization? I know you've expressed that you have SDKs in. Can you tell me more about what the broad monetization strategy is?
Yeah, so the game monetizing by ads as usual classic games. So you can check it on the internet, but usually these classic games earning revenue, let's say 80%, 90% from ads. So another 10-20% from the IAP. So I don't do IAP at this moment because I would like to more focus on game itself. I want to develop the game. So this is how it looks like. So I'm using the Armor mediation and integrated with the Facebook audience network. So this is a very, very minimum setting, to be honest. But I got enough data to optimize the game itself and also in auto monetization. So I'm not focusing on this at this moment because I'd like to go to the very minimum setting. I don't want to invest in extra cash at this moment.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense too. Again, what I also like about your approach is you're keeping things extremely simple and you're keeping things very, very effective. You're not doing anything crazy or super complicated in getting your game studio off the ground. And you said you really got into this as a marketer. So what does your marketing strategy look like at this point?
Yeah, so at this moment, I'm running only a worldwide campaign with a very, very cheap CPI. This is okay. I need some traffic to test it out, some game function. So my Sudoku has a leaderboard, but if there's not enough people, we don't know if leaderboard works properly or not. So this is why I'm getting some traffic. And also, I'm constantly doing some design A/B tests, also doing some store, optimization as well. So I need some, certain traffic every day. So this is at the moment. And also I'm defining some geos which has a reasonable CPI and also easy to climb up, let's say top 1 to 3 in download ranking in the puzzle category.
Yeah.
So that's my idea is that, I get the, I try to maximize number of the organic traffic and decrease the eCPI in some selected geo. So this is what I'm doing, some this kind of test. I just see like, I'm looking for, where I can have the opportunity,
Yeah. So how do you think about market creators for your marketing? You're running these campaigns at small scale. How do you make these creators? How do you think about these? How do you plan for these?
Yeah. So I have a own designer. I founded some Facebook group. So in Poland, we have Game Dev Polska Praca. It's meaning that game developer Poland work. So I found him on a Facebook group, and I checked his portfolio, and I thought, it works, it suits my needs. And it's what I'm doing that I just go to the Facebook ad library and check my competitors' ads, what kind of ads they're using, and just copy and paste. So my idea is that if the same gameplay, game experience, and the same kind of the ads, the matter is how to optimize your marketing campaign.
Right. Right. And that's where you have the advantage because you are a marketer, you have experience running massive campaigns. Okay. So you're also, again, what I also like is that you're also keeping your marketing processes fairly simple and straightforward. And again, out of curiosity, you did say you're optimizing for CPI. So are you thinking about or considering the LTV in any manner?
Yeah. Actually, I'm not optimizing campaign towards to the CPI because CPI, if we run, let's say, incentive campaign, we can go really, really low, right? So I'm optimizing actually cost per day 7 user.
Okay.
So for me, so for me, the most valuable user is people stay in my game in day 7. And based on internal game matrix, if people stay till day 7, I'm gonna be profitable.
Right. No, that makes sense. And do you have any analytics system in the game itself to track the day-to-day progress?
Yeah, so I'm using the Firebase.
Okay. Cool. Simple enough, which is free.
Yeah, simple enough. Yeah. Only thing Firebase that's we cannot break down the retention by country from the dashboard. So you have to use the BigQuery. But you can use let's say Upsire or Tenjin, whatever you prefer.
Sure. Yeah. And now that you have the game running, you're monetizing, you're marketing the game, what's next for you? How do you think about working on a new game versus improving your current game via adding leaderboard, you said, to adding new features? How do you prioritize what's next for you?
So yeah, now I'm more focusing on this Sudoku product because in terms of the let's say in-game KPIs, I know that it's not big difference between the big publishers. So first Sudoku, I'm also working on Solitaire, but Solitaire is like more a little bit complex because there's a few ways of the playing of Solitaire. So this is the reason that I'm constantly testing, like what is the best way to utilize my skill. What's the more similar like Sudoku, like how I can duplicate that strategy to the Solitaire. Besides the classic game, I have 2 games in the pipeline. One is kind of a shooting game. It's a little bit like hyper casual, but I put more stuff. Another one is like a more visual novel game. So this is a more like APAC, I'm from Japan, so, I know
Right.
what Japanese people like, what kind of game
Right.
Japanese people like. So
Yeah.
I'm making this.
Yeah. Yeah. And the approach you described of taking a very simple game, putting in very simple classic games, right? So very classic games, putting in fairly simple marketing and monetization. Do you think that approach could work with a hyper casual game as well? Why or why not?
Maybe not, exactly same approach towards the hyper casual, because usually hyper casual games have much shorter product lifetime. So this is why the production time should be shorter, because you have to constantly making the new hyper casual games. So my approach is based on the fact the one classic games are easy to develop. Another thing that classic games have very good retention in long term.
Right.
So if you want to like develop hyper casual games, you have to have you have to modify or adapt the strategy towards the hyper casual games.
Right.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, and also I would say, because you're working on classic games, you don't have to prove out the game mechanic, because the game mechanic is proved for hundreds of years. You don't have to change anything. With hyper casual, I think the game mechanic is still a question mark. It can work, but maybe not.
Exactly. You have to do a lot of tests. So meaning that you have to try, let's say, 10, 20, 30, then you go to the next level, like next production. So I think it's a little bit difficult to do it by yourself. You should have some team to do that.
Yeah. And what sort of scale are you at with your games in terms of revenue and UA spend?
So at this moment, my main focus is developing a game which people can play a long time. So I just mentioned before that I'm running only the worldwide campaign with very cheap CPI to testing. But I would expect, let's say, 2,000, 3,000 monthly US spend in the coming months, because based on current KPI, everything looks okay. Although scale is a little bit small. Let's see, and if everything's okay, let's see my cash flow, and probably now scale up, speed up all the business.
And more power to you for doing everything you're doing, because this is definitely exciting, because a lot of marketers think about what it's like to be on the be a developer, but I don't think anybody I know has made the leap, and very, very few people I imagine have. So why do you think more people don't do what you've done in transitioning from marketing to game development?
I think a lot of people think that having own game studio is difficult, maybe because of there's no no skill, or maybe there's no knowledge, they don't know how to make it. So I know like a lot of, let's say, developer like working on their own game. I never seen a marketer is working on their own game, something as you mentioned. I think that this lack of skill, but actually, as I described before, it's not so difficult. Just go freelance.com, post it, and you just did a very minimum initial investment, which is very affordable, and can make our own game. You can publish. You don't need to do anything. Like your developer will do everything. And for marketer, it's kind of playground. You can do a lot of stuff. You can do run some marketing campaign for the experiment. So I think that's it's good to know like the entire mobile game ecosystem. For a marketer, that's it helps the marketer career, because everything.
And I would also think that for a lot of marketers, much like myself, we work with large sums of money. Oftentimes we work with hundreds of thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. Sometimes it's helpful to get a different perspective when you're marketing your own game and you're like, oh my God, this is what it's like to get your first 10, 50, 100 installs. So it's a very different perspective. And as you said, you get to understand the mobile gaming ecosystem from a different point of view altogether.
Exactly, exactly. Right. So I would recommend to everyone to at least try, because it's really super fun. I'm not doing it for money or something. I'm just for fun, just like my hobby.
Yeah. Indeed, Kentaro, this is very instructive, and I definitely have taken a lot of notes. This has been great, and I can't wait to put this out into the world. As we wrap up, can you tell folks how they can find out more about you and everything you do?
Yeah, if you have any question or some feedback, just write my name on LinkedIn, and we can have some discussion.
Excellent. We will link to your LinkedIn on the transcript and the show notes, and I'm excited to release this into the world very soon.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to the Mobile User Acquisition Show. If any of this was helpful or instructive, I would love for you to leave us a review or rating on iTunes, Stitcher, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcast fix. This podcast takes a ton of time, effort, and love to produce, and I deeply value every review and every piece of feedback that you share. Thank you for listening, and I will look forward to sharing our next episode soon.